All right, ever wake up and you just can't move?
Yeah.
Like you're totally frozen, and maybe there's even a feeling like something else is in the room with you,
Definitely gives me the chills just thinking about it.
right? That's sleep paralysis, and it's what we're diving into today.
Yeah.
Um, I've got some pretty interesting research here, all about the history of this phenomenon. Ready to unpack it?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Okay, so first off, it's actually way more common than you might think.
Really?
Yeah, tons of people experience it at some point.
Wow.
And, reading through this stuff, it's clear that it's always been a pretty terrifying experience. But I'm curious, like historically, how did people make sense of it? Was it always seen as something purely scary?
Well, what I found really fascinating is that the actual experience might be universal, but the ways people have understood it have changed a lot across different times and cultures.
Like how so?
Like one of the things you sent me talks about this old hag folklore.
Oh yeah, the old hag.
Yeah, right.
Super creepy.
Basically this belief that sleep paralysis was caused by like a malevolent spirit that would sit on your chest and, make it hard to breathe.
And that's where that trapped feeling comes from.
Exactly. And it shows how for like centuries people linked sleep paralysis to the supernatural.
So it wasn't just like a physical thing, it was like a spiritual attack or something.
Yeah.
I mean, even now it can be super scary.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine how terrifying it must have been back then with no scientific explanation.
Oh, absolutely.
Did anyone ever see it as anything other than like a bad thing?
Actually, yeah, some cultures actually saw it as a positive thing. They thought it was kind of like an out-of-body experience, like your soul was traveling while your body slept.
That's pretty wild, like a spiritual journey or something.
Right.
So it makes me think, like, do you think these historical interpretations, like the demons and stuff, or the whole astral projection idea, do you think any of that still affects how we think about sleep paralysis today, even with all the science we have now?
I think it's definitely possible. I mean, the stories we tell, they kind of shape how we see the world, even our own internal experiences. It's not just about the science, it's about the narratives we have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that sleep paralysis happens when your mind basically wakes up before your body does.
Which is why you feel paralyzed.
Yep.
It's technically called muscle atonia, and it's actually a normal part of REM sleep.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But even though we know the science behind it, it's almost like those old stories are still stuck in our heads somewhere, adding like an extra layer of fear to something that's already pretty freaky.
Yeah, for sure. It just goes to show you how much science and culture really are intertwined. You can't truly get one without thinking about the other.
So we've talked about how common sleep paralysis is, and we've seen how people have interpreted it over time. But here's something to think about. Do you think those old beliefs about demons and the supernatural, do you think they still make sleep paralysis scarier for us today, even with all the scientific explanations we have?